Okay, we're ready.
Hi, welcome to another exciting episode of All Things 3D, where we talk about everything going on in the 3D world, 3D printing, 3D modeling, 3D scanning, all of that good stuff. I'm your co-host, Chris Kopak, and this is...
Mike Balzer.
And today we have a guest. His name is Josh Ellis. He's the founder of Maker Juice Labs. Is that right, Josh?
That is correct.
Awesome. Well, welcome to the show. We want to get a little info about you. You apparently make SLA resins and things like that. We've seen some of your stuff. You're highly recommended, highly sought after resins in the SLA community. Tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're located, and what you do for a living.
So we're located actually just outside of Kansas City on the Kansas side. As far as what I do for a living, I'm actually I guess an engineer would be the best way to describe it. So I'm an engineer, but yeah, that's basically it.
What type of engineer?
I do mostly mechanical and a little electrical.
So you work in CAD? You do 3D CAD?
Yes, yeah, a lot of stuff in the big boy tools, SolidWorks and stuff like that. What most of the industry uses.
Yeah, go SolidWorks.
I'm
Team SolidWorks.
Yeah, it's a nice tool. It's very very pricey, but it's a nice tool.
I'm Team Inventor. Okay,
Yeah.
so let's see what else. So where are you located at?
Yeah, we're in Lenexa, Kansas. So yeah, right outside of Kansas City on the Kansas side.
Okay.
That's where good barbecue comes from.
Yes.
Are you familiar with a company called New Tech, who was in Topeka, Kansas for several years? They did the video toaster. Okay.
No, video toaster, no.
Maybe it's before your time. This was back in the late 80s, early 90s. They created a product for the Commodore Amiga that was extremely popular. And there were two of them that started it up, and they were characters because they wanted to kind of show what they could buy with the money. So they went out and bought, what was it, a Honda NSX? Sports card at the time, so they bought two of them and had the license plate. This is what you could buy with the money that you saved. It was kind of amusing.
Nice.
Okay, so let's get on with the questions then. Enough of my ranting. Let's see, our first one is, what is SLA and DLP type resin?
Sure. That's a good question, and a lot of people don't know because this is still while it's not a new technology, as far as consumers and global adoption are concerned, it's a relatively new technology. So
now,
SLA.
Keep in mind, we do have video, so if you got something to show us and do a dog and pony show, we'd love to see it.
Well, not sure. I might could grab something, but I don't think I have anything right in front of me, unfortunately, other than a keychain, pretty much. But yeah, so basically SLA resins you can think of it as a liquid plastic. They're photopolymers that whenever you cure them with a UV light source, they turn from a liquid plastic into a solid plastic. How this works with printers, whereas most people are familiar with the FFF or FDM RepRap style printers where they extrude thermoplastics in lines and to draw the part they're creating. The SLA resins actually, there are two different ways. One uses a scanning kind of like that except with a laser beam, and one uses a DLP projector, which seems to be right now the most popular as far as upcoming printers. So that's basically what it is. It's just a liquid that turns into a solid pretty much whenever UV light hits it. I guess would be the simplest way to describe it.
Now, is it only UV light, or is it just the fact that DLPs provide such a bright white light that it solidifies it?
Well, it depends on how the resin is made, actually. The resins that we make and most all resins on the market right now cure using UV light. That's what they're designed to do. And the reason is UV is very energetic, but also it stops you from pretty much, it makes things easier to work with because visible light, if you had a resin that cured with visible light and you open the bottle or whatever in a brightly lit room, you'd have some problems. So UV light just is a convenient source for the chemistry and also for the printers.
Okay, and that probably explains why, like the Form 1 and the latest printers, they have that amber translucent cover.
Yes, exactly. That cover is primarily to shield actually the resin from UV sources externally. If you set your Form 1 printer next to a window, for instance, and had that cover open, that resin in the vat would solidify very quickly, which obviously isn't something you want to happen. So.
Okay, and I'll ask this question later and we'll move on, but I'm wondering, how much does it actually block the UV? I mean, I'm assuming that there's still some that gets through. So if you had it on your window for like a month, it probably would affect it. But let's move on. So how long have you been in the business of SLA resin making?
We started, let's see, the business started, I want to say in April or May of last year, actually. So about a year, just over a year. It started as a kind of hobby project for myself. As an engineer, I've always loved 3D printers and do a lot of things with them. RepRaps were my first printers that I built. And then I was looking for something that was a little bit higher quality on the finished prints. So I decided to build a do-it-yourself SLA machine using a DLP projector. At the time, there was really only one commercial printer on the market, the B9 Creator, that was a commercial SLA machine as far as hobbyists are concerned. It's something less than 5 or 10 grand. The Form 1, I believe at that time, was either in the middle of their Kickstarter or somewhere right around there. They hadn't shipped any printers, I don't think, but it was around that same time period. And there was really nobody who sold reasonably priced SLA resins. So I started looking into them, and then with the help of a chemist that I know as well, so through kind of working with him and through a lot of reading, we decided that it was something that I could develop and sell more affordably than anyone on the market. So that's how the company got started.
Okay, great. So I'm aware of 3 companies that are making SLA resins, including Maker Juice. With the competition heating up, do you think there's room for the 3 of you, or do you feel that there's going to be enough SLA printers for all of you to have a pie or a piece of the pie in?
I think right now there is, even given how small the market is, I think there's room for the 3 of us. I would assume one of the ones you're talking about is Made Solid, which I talk to Dave on IRC quite frequently. He's a really nice guy. I believe he's their CEO.
Yeah, we've had Brian on several times on our podcast, so we're really good friends with him as well.
Yeah, they're a bunch of nice guys. I really enjoy them, and I don't mind the competition. Honestly, I think I don't know if it's just the way I am, but I think the competition makes all of our products better. And given how many people there are on this planet, and how many hopefully SLA printers will be coming out, as well as the ones that have already been booming on the market frequently, I think there's room for all of us.
I think so, and I think that you all seem to be working in different areas as far as resins are concerned. And speaking of that, I went onto your website, and actually I've ordered some, which I plan to use tomorrow, but you have something called Sub-SF, Sub-Flex, and Sub-G+. What are these names?
Sure. Do you want to know what the resins are specifically, the properties, or where we got the weird names from?
Both.
Okay. Give us a rundown. Give us a rundown.
Right. So originally the first resin we came out with was called Sub-G, or Substance G. That was really a kind of reference to Scanner Darkly. If either of you guys are familiar with it.
Have. Cool.
Yes. Yeah, Substance D, I believe, right, for Substance Death. So probably not a good name, for the product, but it was meant to be a general purpose resin. So one of my friends was just said, hey, you should name it Substance G instead of Substance D for Substance General Purpose. And so that's kind of how the name started, and we've basically gone from there. The resins themselves, I'll just go through each one you mentioned. Sub-G we don't do very much with anymore. It was a good material to get us started, and it's very low viscosity, so it has some niche applications, such as the Peachy printer. that require such low viscosity. But the next one we developed after that was sub G+, which substantially reduced the shrinkage in the resin, which is very important for printing large things and for most printers on the market. That's always a complication with these types of printers is shrinkage. So it's something we're working very hard on, and sub G+ was kind of our first attempt at that. So then you have sub Flex, which was basically it's a very soft resin. It's still something we consider in a beta stage, and we're always working to improve it, but it's basically more of a rubber-like, very flexible resin. Unfortunately, right now it's not very tough, so it kind of has a niche application as well, but that's something that we hope to fix soon, which we've been doing a lot of R&D on that, actually. Then you have sub SF, which was basically stands for snap fit. We had a lot of questions from customers wanting a material that wasn't as hard as the G+, because it's a very hard material, but you kind of get a certain brittleness in that. So SF it's still a hard material. It feels hard, it's fairly rugged, but it does have a little bit of give to it. So if you wanted to build something that had snap fit tabs, it would kind of suit that purpose. And we've been really happy with that resin, actually.
Compare that
That's
to,
awesome.
let's say, the Formlabs formulas. What would the SF or the G+? Is there any equivalence there?
Yeah, the G+ would be the closest to the Form 1 resin. Their resins are extremely hard, but they're also very brittle. So that's pretty. I would say that's the closest equivalent. I don't think G+ is quite as hard as the Formlabs resin, but that would be the most similar.
Okay. And you mentioned in your website. Let me finish this up, Chris, and then you have the little SLA nomenclature as well as the Form 1. Why do you have these differentiated?
Yeah, that's a good question. Okay, so generally we have our normal batch of resins, which are designed to work on printers where the print profile, I guess you could say, can be changed to suit the resin you're using. A lot of these printers that are just coming out, the Titan, the little SLA and stuff like that, you can change your print parameters as far as how long you expose each layer and everything like that to suit the resin, as opposed to the resin having to suit the printer. The Form 1 printer is different in that Formlabs has gone to great lengths to make it a self-contained unit within their company, where basically it's not hackable, if you want to say, if you could say. So it has no tolerance for resins that are not their own. Right. So basically,
you can't adjust exposure time or anything like that, really.
Exactly.
Right?
Yes, exactly. So basically, for the Form 1 printer, oh, I'm sorry. That's an air compressor that's going on in the background. I forgot to turn that off.
That's all right.
It should go off in just a second. I'm not sure if you can hear it more than you can hear me.
Hardly.
Nope.
Yeah, no.
Okay.
If you hadn't called attention to it, I wouldn't have heard it.
Sorry about that. Anyway, so basically the Form 1 version of our resin is designed specifically for that printer and the exposure settings that they have. And it's a very tight profile to print on their printer because of the way they have it designed. So we really needed a resin specifically to fit their profile. The little SLA resin, to answer that question, it's a very tiny printer as far as the build area, but it's really designed for high resolution and very thin layers. So what you get out of that basically is, per square centimeter, you get a lot more light output, and it's hard to control the bleed of light into the rest of the resin when it's so intense. So that the little SLA resin is designed to not cure quite as fast, and also to compensate for that really intense exposure that it gets.
Great.
Interesting.
So as mentioned, well, go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, so I'm just curious because, like, I don't print SLA in my office. I mostly stick to FDM, but I've been exploring the world of SLA to maybe buy a machine in the coming months, and so it was interesting for me to stumble upon MakerJuice because you guys are, so much less expensive compared to the competition as far as your resins. Is there like a reason why it's so much less expensive?
Well, there is a reason. There's a few reasons actually. The primary reason is that when I started the company, my main motive was not to make it into, I won't say it wasn't to make it into a business, it was more to provide an affordable source of resin for a hobbyist. My main goal was not to, become wealthy on it and sell the company to 3D Systems or something like that. So our margins are lower. I believe, obviously, that information is kept private at every company, but I would believe these chemical prices are pretty standardized. So I imagine our margins are probably lower. And on top of that, we work really hard and spend a lot of time on trying different materials that the raw materials we can buy are less expensive, but still give us the same properties that we want.
Got it.
So,
Yeah. And it's good that you actually are coming in at a lower price point, because I've noticed that the Form Labs, their 1 liter, I think a year ago was close to $200, and it's dropped another $50. So it appears you are applying some pressure, maybe a little, maybe a lot, but there is some pressure there. So prices are coming down.
And I think that's good for consumers. I mean, obviously, our prices are right now lower than everybody else on pretty much all of our resins, but I think it's good that if people see there's another option, then those other companies who for so long have been able to kind of gouge their customers because they didn't have a choice will have to make their materials cheaper, and they won't be able to kind of take advantage of the customers that way, and that's always a good thing for everyone.
It sure is.
The market is working.
Yes, yes.
So on to the next item. You also list color dyes. I noticed that you come at pre-formulated, but you can also buy an unpigmented version and then add it. In asking that question, is the unpigmented a translucent or a clear, or is it just I don't know, what would you call it? You have a white version, so what does an unpigmented version look like?
Yes, that's a good question. The unpigmented resin, if you cured it with just as it stands, with no added pigments or anything like that, it would be a mostly clear but slightly, it would have a kind of translucent yellow color to it. And that comes just from some of the chemicals and some of the components that comprise the resin. We actually haven't had a really strong demand for a clear resin, that's ice clear, I guess you would call it, or glass clear. So if there is a strong demand for it, it's something that we'll work on one day. But right now, it's just primarily to serve as a base for customers to create their own colors, just like you would with paint.
I'd like a clear, so you have my vote for one. Now, as you're probably aware of, Form Labs has a clear, but I don't know if they've changed their formula, but essentially you can get a really clear print, but you have to go through great lengths to ensure that it stays clear and doesn't yellow, as you're probably aware of. So maybe a little later you can give us some techniques on curing and things like that with your resins.
Sure.
So I've noticed Made Solid and now I think Form Labs are both coming out with cast-in resins. What is that, and could you kind of explain that to us?
Yeah, that's a good question actually. So we get a lot of questions and a lot of inquiries from people who are using these printers because they're such high detail. They use them to print out rings or pendants or any kind of jewelry that they have designed in the computer, and then they will basically put that in some sort of investment like porcelain or plaster of Paris. They will put that in the kiln, burn out the resin, the plastic, and then use precious metals, silver, gold, etc., to create their jewelry. So it's actually a pretty big market, and like I said, we get a lot of inquiries about it. Most resins are not compatible with that because they have a lot of ash content. So basically, whenever you stick them in this kiln, which is thousands of degrees, and the material vaporizes, but there's some left over as carbon, which if you pour the metal on the carbon, it's not good for the surface. Basically, it's just ash. So that is something, that a lot of companies are working on. We've actually got one that we've been working on as well. We're just trying to get good. We're trying to get it tested thoroughly before we release it, because it is a professional market as opposed to just a normal hobbyist thing. And we'll be releasing that hopefully within the next few weeks to compete with those guys as well.
Okay. Well, and on to not the last question, but another similar question. As mentioned, I work with a dentist, and we tried an experiment using the iTero intraoral scanning system, which then developed a mesh of my teeth, and then we printed it on the Form 1, and the results were excellent. The problem is, as you're well aware of, this material is not something you want to put in your mouth. Is there any direction that anybody's going in order to provide an FDA-approved or non-toxic version of this resin so that a dentist could use this very quickly to come up with temporaries or something like this?
Sure. I haven't heard from anyone else, so I can't speak to what the other companies are working on. But in general, these materials, just because of the type of chemistry, you're right, they're not really something you'd want to have inside you. I believe there is a FDA-approved medically safe resin by either 3D Systems or DSM Somos. I'm not sure who it is. They do have a medically approved resin, but
I saw something with the latter.
Yeah, but there is it's extremely expensive, and not just because of the price of the materials. I mean, those big companies charge an arm and a leg, as you know, for their materials anyway. But the approval process to get something approved by the FDA and medically is extremely expensive, and it's a very hard, drawn-out process. For a small company such as myself, I don't know that it would be something we could take on at this time. So probably I would say the best use right now would be to print something and then do some sort of a porcelain mold with it. That would probably be the fastest way. We are working on hopefully stuff that's less toxic. We're working on some without getting too far into it, we're working on some, I guess you could call it green resins, something that doesn't use petroleum-derived products. I can't speak to their toxicity right now, unfortunately. It should be less, but they're definitely mostly made from recycled content and vegetable products, so at least they'll hopefully be less environmentally impactful.
Well, that's
organic SLA resin.
Yes.
All organic.
That's pretty
GMO-free.
You can put that over in what's that grocery store that you go to, Chris?
Whole Foods.
Whole Foods.
Whole Foods.
Yes. Yeah, we'll put it in the Whole Foods.
Organic resin. Pick up your fruit and your organic resin all in the same location.
So, Josh, where do you see SLA printing in a year? Where do you see it going?
We would like, I mean, just based on how it's expanded in the last year, I can only imagine there will probably be, in the next year, dozens more printers coming to the market that use these materials. We've been in a really good position as we started kind of before there were any, and as well as making them more affordable, we have a lot of printer manufacturers contact us and say, hey, you know, this material, you're making it affordable, now it makes sense for us to put this printer on the market that we've been wanting to build. So it's good for them that, you know, they have the source of materials that's expanding, and it's good for us because obviously the more customers that have these printers, the more buy these materials. So it's kind of been playing back and forth off the printer manufacturers and ourselves, and it's enabled a lot more of these printers to come to the market. So I can only hope that it will be substantially larger in the next year. And I really think it will be, simply because the technology is getting more developed, the more companies that are able to work on it, and people are really seeing the advantages that you can get from SLA and detail and stuff like that.
Okay, that's excellent. So to conclude this, why don't you go ahead and give us the website that you can listen. This is where you can come up with your visual and say, with the little banner page, this is where we're at. But also a question that I did miss, which I guess we can put in here, do you have a spec sheet on this? I get a lot of engineers who are asking, you know, there's certain things about the material. One of them that wants to use it for creating a vacuum. So there's a term for that, and I can't, escapes me right now, and I need to send you that information as well.
Yes.
But I'm finding that the resins are being created, but the actual specifications on durability, flexibility, and things like that aren't being presented. Do you have something like that?
Yeah, on the technical documents page on our website, which you can get to through the main menu, we have links to, I believe, 2 of the resins right now that we list the technical data sheets. Those data sheets give the hardness, some of them the elongation, the critical exposure, more of the scientific stuff that you're looking for, the engineering specifications. So some of that information is on there. We do really want to do that with the rest of our resins as well, but it's, to get them tested is a pretty involved process. But I can, at least as far as our resins, that would be the best way to get that information.
Great. I guess I just missed it on your site. And your site is?
We are makerjuice.com, MAKERJUICE. It's all one word. It's a funny name, I know. But yeah, makerjuice.com.
Well,
it's a great name.
Yeah. When I put it in there, I kept getting ads for juicers. I don't know why.
Yeah. That was another friend's idea where, hey, you should call it that because it's funny, and it just kind of stuck.
Well, Chris knows something about names like that, right, Mr. Parts Oven?
That's right.
So, Chris, why don't you wrap it up for us?
So thanks for joining us, to all our listeners, and thanks to Josh for joining us on another great episode of All Things 3D. And I have one more quick question. What are you printing these days?
Oh, anything I can get my hands on, my friend. Anything they'll let me.
Show us something.
Awesome.
All right, well, let's see. I'll have to put off my headset for a second.
That's
I'll
fine.
grab some stuff and bring it up here for you.
Excellent.
Yeah. So makerjuice.com. I gotta go down there and check it out. So it's
And I've got a little bit of resin. I'll save some for you.
cool. Yeah, I'm looking to. I really can't wait to get my hands on one of those little SLAers.
All right, to Brad. He's going to get us one.
So this is all stuff that I've printed within the last day or two, actually, so they've all been in the same color because I haven't changed. This is a little guy on Thingiverse. He's I'm not sure if you can see him in the camera very well. It's a little stormtrooper.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that looks really nice. This is a little art piece of I'm not sure what it is exactly. It's a bunch of triangles and circles intertwined. Came out really
Very
cool. This guy, which I'm sure everybody can recognize, a little red police box. It's a TARDIS. Yeah, so that's a nice little guy.
But it's not blue.
It's not blue, though. And I'm sure we all recognize this because it's been very popular.
Oh, yeah.
lately.
Yes. Brad Hill has that on his as well.
Yeah. This is a big
Very cool.
No, this is the one that was printed all as one solid piece, actually. So this guy doesn't move. This is actually the T-Rex 3000. It's the one that has the armor and everything on it, as opposed to just the regular skull. And I like this one just because it looks a little bit more cyborgish. And then the normal prints that you get from SLA printers, which are really cool. The little spheres, which are really hard to do on FDM.
So what are you printing these on?
These are I actually have several printers here. I've been printing.
Point your camera at them.
Put my camera at. Well, I honestly I can't show all of them. So some of them are under NDA. I can't, unfortunately. I can tell you I do print a lot of stuff on the little SLA since I've got it. It's been running pretty much 24/7 printing. Actually, keychains. I'm not sure if you will be able to see this. This has been on my keychain for a while. It's a little Maker Juice logo that we printed out for the Maker Fair in Kansas City here in a few days. We're going to be trying to give away a lot of those, and the little SLA has been our production line for those lately. But we also use. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Have you seen Brad's latest addition to it?
I'm not sure. I talk to him every day, so probably.
Okay. Probably.
But,
I'm not going to mention because I don't know if he wants everybody to know about it, but it's going to make it really cool.
Okay, all right, good deal. Yeah, it's a really nice little printer, and for the price, it's absolutely crazy. It's probably one of, if not my favorite printer that I have. Even with the stuff I can't show, it's definitely up there. So
as mentioned, we interviewed him a month ago, and he actually came. He's in Santa Barbara, so it was like an hour, 2-hour drive for him, and he came up and showed us it. And if you go out to my website, he's got it positioned because we call it instead of the little friend, it's my little SLA.
Yeah, I think I believe I saw some of those pictures. I think I was joking with them about it.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, Josh, for being with us, and thanks to all our listeners for joining in on another episode of All Things 3D. We hope to catch you next time.
Bye.
Thanks for having me, guys.
All right.